Hi, everyone. It's Leora, and welcome back to the show. Today, we're getting into the real life legal drama that's been playing out behind the scenes surrounding the movie It Ends With Us. You've probably seen the headlines about Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and Wayfarer Studios. But what is actually going on here, and how did it get this messy? I'm excited to be joined by Brit Madrid Mogenson of In the Cards and Stars and BZen TV, and Michael Mogenson, who is an attorney and will be sharing his legal expertise with us today. And together, we're going to break down what the court filings, emails, and even a secretly recorded phone call reveal about power, image, and PR inside Hollywood. In this episode, we're going to get into the publicly released discovery from the Lively Wayfarer suit, currently unfolding in federal court in the Southern District of New York. And I actually got my hands on the audio, and I have it right here. This is how it was presented. It's actually in the form of a CD. This was part of the discovery file, and it contains a 38-minute phone call between Claire Ayub, a creator and director who was a witness for the Lively team, and Steve Sarowitz, the co-founder of Wayfarer Studios. This call is now part of the record, and it offers a fascinating window into the tone, tension, and the power dynamics behind the scenes of this case. Think of this as a part pop culture breakdown, part legal analysis, but also remember, sometimes the real movie is what's happening off screen. So let's get into it.
I am so excited that we all got together. We, of course, have Leora Luciano here, lawyer Mo, aka Michael Mogenson, myself, Brit Madrid Mogenson. I'm so excited that we got together to discuss this latest audio. Leora, woman on the street over here doing the journalistic due diligence. Tell us about how you got this audio, Leora. This is amazing.
Yeah, the audio that just came out, we're going to talk about the case. This is in regards to the Lively Wayfarer Studios case. So basically, there was an audio, I was going to say document, like CD-ROM that was,
Yeah, pretty crazy.
yes, that was made available to the public. This is in the Southern District in the court in New York, and you just go into this building and they literally take your phone. So I was going to document it, but I totally forgot about that part. You go through your basically your scan, and then they collect any electronic, so headphones,
Wow.
phone, because all that goes on in that building are usually really big cases. I walked in, and what they told me was really interesting because this recording was released by CD on Friday. There were rumors and basically tweets and Reddit threads that said it wasn't available yet. However, when I went into the records room on Monday, they said, "Oh, yeah, there were other people here who have received the CDs and they are still available. You will be charged if you want one. It can be yours for the price of $34, but it is also now widely available online. I have it on my website as well. I released the full audio. I uploaded that from the CD. I don't have anything that plays CDs anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say, with the exception of practicing attorneys, law firms, and probably people in the medical field who might store medical records or imaging, most people don't have that. So I was looking into my closets, digging around for dead tech, like old laptops with a CD-ROM drive, and they wouldn't even turn on. So in preparation, I ordered a drive on Friday through Amazon and it was delayed. I ran around looking for a Staples, a FedEx, and all of them have been updated. There are no CD-ROM drives,
Oh my God.
except when I went to the New York Public Library. So
Okay.
that is a long-winded version, but basically, I got the
Journey.
file. I listened to the audio, and I know you listened to it, and Michael, you listened to it as well. I feel like if we're talking about this case, it feels like it was recent, but also so long ago because
Right.
the case was filed in December of last year, 2024. Between now and then, there's a lot that's been going on in the court as this case develops, basically, but also in the court of public opinion, if you will, right? So media is a whole other. So I think that's also very interesting to discuss in light of this audio.
I mean, Who do you guys think at this point in time? Let's start with the court of public opinion because that's a little easier to discuss. Who do you guys think is winning in the court of public opinion?
Well, I'll leave that to y'all. There's a distinctive winner so far in the case.
Oh, okay. I'm excited to hear that.
Well, you guys can talk about public opinion better.
In the court of public opinion, my vote is that Justin Baldoni, because more things have been discussed about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and their interactions. Definitely a lot of media, especially online, has been more geared towards exposing them, and they haven't been looking good. And then, of course, the alleged rift between Taylor Swift and Blake Lively, all those things kind of have chipped away at her image of being this really kind, nice person, and how their couple was sort of the couple was like on a pedestal, it's like America's sweethearts for a few years. What do you think, Leora?
Yeah, I think when this first started out, hearing the allegations, we're talking about sexual harassment, hostile work environments. Once we got to know the case, it was really the beginning of the year. I think a lot of the media coverage on it has shifted now. When I looked at
Mhm.
anything that was up today, with the exception of TMZ, it seems like it's leaning towards Baldoni. So, yeah, there's been a pivot in media in terms of this case. I tend to agree with you.
Michael, what do you think as far as the clear legal winner?
Well, so far, Baldoni's team's getting their ass kicked in the legal case. And we talked about this when the counter suit came out, when it first was filed. You made me read it.
Yes.
I went through it. Just for people listening, I do federal lawsuits. I got one right now that's going on, which is just at the beginning portions of discovery. So what happens in a federal lawsuit? One is filed. There's going to be either has to be a constitutional issue. It has to be diversity jurisdiction, which means all the parties live in different places. And that's the basis for them being at federal court, or it has to be a federal issue, which there are no federal issues here. This is all, they could have filed this in state court, but they did it in federal court because of the diversity jurisdiction of the parties. So that's how they ended up in federal court. Federal courts usually move a lot faster than state courts. And this particular case, like Leora was just talking about, it seems like it's been a while. And this is actually really fast in the life of lawsuits compared to a state case. So I don't know if they have a trial date. Do you guys know that off the top of your heads?
I thought it was March of 2026, but don't quote me on that. We can Google that.
I think you're right. And so in complex litigation, and I don't really know that this is complex just because it's big money and big name people, but there's not a lot of complex issues in it. A year plus 3 months, so 15 months from filing to trial is pretty fast. The federal case that I have going right now, our timeline is just a little bit quicker, but we still don't have a trial date. And that's because also in federal courts, judges have a lot more power. And what they will do oftentimes, I think because this one has media attention, so much media attention, they've already given them a trial date.
Of March 9th.
Generally, in federal dockets, there are several cases that are set for trial. They don't tell you, they tell you you're going within a 3 to 4 week period. You don't know what day you're going to. And so you have to be ready all the time. And so you will find out on Friday if your trial starts on Monday. It's nerve-wracking because you could have all your people ready, all your witnesses, and then you're like, oh, somebody else went in front of you. So now you got to wait. We have already seen that Baldoni's counterclaim for $400 million it's been thrown out. So really all he's doing right now is defending. And Lively apparently had a couple of counts in her petition, and I don't remember how many counts they started with. She voluntarily dismissed a couple of them. So that will happen. Sometimes you overstate your petition, but in this particular case, it looks like they filed extra counts and at some point decided that they weren't going to be able to make those counts. So I think they dismissed voluntarily 2 counts. And so they've streamlined their case. And then shortly thereafter, the motion to dismiss got completely thrown out. Right now, just so everybody understands, Baldoni may be winning the public opinion, and people might know that Lively and Ryan Reynolds by proxy are the people are like, oh, these aren't the people we thought they were. He's not winning the case currently. He's getting handled. And you had me read the counterclaim. I don't remember, but it was garbage. I even said it on your podcast. I was like, this looks like a tabloid writer wrote this. This is not the work of an attorney who was trying to win this case.
It wasn't even that language or
Right. It was terrible.
format. It was really
It
weird.
was embarrassing.
From
Whoever
Justin-
represents Baldoni's team.
From Justin. Okay.
That was their lawsuit against Lively.
And that was dismissed.
And that's been dismissed. Here in Kansas City, where we're located, we've got some of the back end stuff with Baldoni making the claims, trying to embarrass Lively and drum up more attention with Taylor. Taylor is staying here in town with Trav in Leawood, which is right down the street. First off, his team tried to beg for more time so they could try to depose Taylor, or at least threaten to depose her, to extend the discovery closing date. Federal judges hate moving that. Once you get the pretrial order, they don't like changing those dates ever. So they denied it and they said, you haven't even tried to subpoena her. It was, I think, 2 or 3 days later that a former police officer from Pittsburgh, Kansas, was hired by his team to try to break into Trav's house and serve her with a deposition subpoena. And her security team caught him in the bushes. He's been arrested and is being prosecuted in Leawood, Kansas. So that's Baldoni's team. Like, they had a guy break into the compound at 2 a.m.
Into the yard on the private property.
That's why it's the compound. So where they stay, it's got security gates. It's got armed security at the front. And they were within the property, but in the compound. The fence, he had to dodge the guards. And then her security team caught him. So we get some of that back information here. That person is currently being prosecuted in Leawood. I've heard from Kansas law enforcement that they're going to revoke his license to be a private investigator here. I don't know what other states he might be licensed in, but that's
allegedly at this moment.
Allegedly.
That's the hearsay.
Yeah,
That's the word on the street,
It
guys.
hasn't been done yet, but
The tea.
there's a strong possibility
That sounds like to me.
I mean, there is desperation all over their part of it. Now, having said that, I don't know that she's going to win anything. And I know before we got on, Leora, you were talking about possibility that Baldoni's team would move for summary judgment. And like a lot of people don't know what summary judgment is.
Yes, please explain for the rest of us, guys.
So at the close of discovery, once all the evidence has been exchanged between the parties, you look at what the petition is, what it alleges, and if there are no fact disparities, you can make a motion for something called summary judgment, where rather than it actually going to a jury, you say, there are no conflicts. This is the evidence. We've all got the evidence. We've all agreed what the evidence is. And with these, they can't win their case. And that's, in a real small nutshell, what a summary judgment motion is. I'm confident Baldoni's team will file that motion at some point, because if they don't, it's malpractice. But I don't know if they're going to win. If they do win, and maybe the judge is tired of all these people, he could throw it all out and the whole thing could be over and never get to a jury. So there is that possibility, which would be kind of hilarious, to be honest with you. So far, legally, Lively's group is winning. Whether that means that'll remain the case, we'll find out.
I have a legal question, if you can bring it down to earth. For those of us who don't really understand, what types of things can you file a lawsuit for and what can you not? I'm reading this from People Magazine. As of January 16th, 2025, this was what was going on around that time period. The third lawsuit to be filed in the legal saga, Baldoni directly sued Lively as well as Reynolds, Sloan, and her PR company. In his complaint, Baldoni accused Lively of never having read the book upon which the movie is based, and therefore making wrong-headed creative decisions that reflected her fundamental lack of understanding of the book. Baldoni's complaint claims Lively began asserting her control over the film, inserting herself into the production process in intrusive ways. How can you file a lawsuit for that?
Well, this is one of the reasons why all of that garbage was thrown out. That is not a cause of action. What they could have sued for, perhaps, is if they have a contract that says she is supposed to read the book. Based on the book, we'll make creative decisions. Something along those lines where she has a duty to do something and she has breached that duty, then they would have a cause of action. But this is gobbledygook. When I read it, when they first filed it, I was like, this is not real.
It seems more like a disagreement, and then you file a lawsuit.
It seems like a tabloid article, what it seemed like when I read it.
Interesting.
But that's not a real cause of action, which I'm sure is why the judge dismissed it.
Maybe he's more trying to save his career.
It's the PR show, I think is what it is. What was interesting about the recording that you got was listening to the money guy, and I can't think of his name, I'm sorry.
Steve Harrowitz.
Sarowitz talked about
The co-founder of Wayfarer.
spending a lot of money to protect the studio. It sounds like that's what they're doing. I don't know that they care too much about winning the case. I mean, I'm sure Baldoni does, but it sounds like the Sarowitz guy wants to protect Wayfair. And like, this just seems to me like it's a PR attempt at a defensive case. Now, maybe that at the end of this, Lively gets tossed out too, which to me, I feel like would be loser on loser crime. I think they're both full of beans, since I can't say other words.
I wanted to ask Michael, because one of the things that I wanted to bring up before we actually get to the recording is this is a recorded phone call, right? So in many states, I feel like this is something that a lot of people don't know. If I called you, would I be able to record without telling you? I'm in the state of New York. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure.
Great question.
So generally the rule is in all the states that I'm licensed in, as long as one of the people on the call knows you're recording, you can record everything. If Leora and Brit are having a call, you guys are talking it. I record it inadmissible. That's illegal. I cannot do that. One of you engaged in the conversation has to know it's being recorded. That's why for wiretaps, there have to be warrants because the two parties talking don't know it's being recorded.
Oh,
There could be some laws where both
Both of
parties
us should know.
both have to know, but I'm unaware of any off the top of my head. With her knowing she was recording it and engaged in the conversation, she's legal as far as I know.
well, in
As
fact
far
that
as-
they put it out there shows.
she's not charged with anything and nobody's crying about it. I do think she probably shot herself in the foot for future jobs. If I'm a studio, do you want to talk to somebody who's going to be recording your conversations and then putting it out in the public behind your back? I
I
don't
guess
know.
it depends on how everything shakes out. If it turns out that Blake Lively has vindicated, she wins the case, and this woman's brave actions helped bring about and bring justice, then maybe people will say, well, that was, a great thing that she put herself out there and helped like that. If it turns out that Blake Lively, her case gets dismissed as well, and she's lumped in with all that, then I think it could look bad. It's hard to understand the motivations of everybody still at this point. It's very confusing.
I guess the story is that the reason she made the recording was that she thought Mr. Sarowitz was going to pressure her,
Yes.
having listened to it. Did you feel that there was any pressure on
No.
her from him?
No. So just to go back, just to make sure everybody is caught up, we're talking about a recorded conversation between Steve Sarowitz, the co-founder of Wayfarer Studios, and Claire Ayub, I believe is her name. Claire was a witness for Lively's team. She recorded a conversation, and this is what we've been talking about this whole time, this conversation. So how it's relevant to the case was one of those things where when the news broke, it's why I was hesitant about rushing to the courthouse to get it in the first place. And then on Monday, I was like, okay, I've got to do it. I've got to get this. And I'm not sure if it's a smoking gun or if it's a whole lot of nothing. Now, I found it very interesting, a conversation with a very high powered executive and also a creative person sort of speaks to the industry as a whole. It's a little bit inside baseball in terms of Hollywood, but in terms of the case, I'm just not sure what it was supposed to show. There are fits and starts of things, but I feel like excerpts or quotes taken without context definitely read different than when you have the context there, as in most cases. I don't know, Britt, if you had any initial thoughts about this or if there were some parts that you wanted to dive into.
Well, so when after we spoke and we talked about it, and you were saying you're going to maybe go and try to get your hands on a copy. It was very exciting. I was just on YouTube the next morning. Kirsty Flaw, who is a journalist, who is actually the person that released the video footage that went viral of Blake Lively saying like, okay, it was when she was interviewing her and she was like, "Congratulations on your little bump." Everybody, I think, remembers that clip. And then Blake Lively said, "Oh, congratulations on your little bump." It was kind of a mean girl type of thing because Blake Lively was pregnant at the time. It was very obvious she was pregnant anyway. So that's Kirsty Floss. She puts out a lot of content about Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni. She's following this case very closely. So the next morning, I did see that she put out a clip, and it was just a little clip. In that clip that she had pulled, it's funny because I didn't hear the same thing when I listened to the clip, and maybe I missed it, but in that clip, it felt, and to your point, taken out of context, it felt very different than when I heard the whole conversation. From her clip, I was kind of on Steve Sarowitz's side, if you will, because in the conversation, he was very polite, and he actually said that a lot of people in Hollywood are nice. Like, if you're nice to them, they'll be nice to you. He spoke very highly of Scarlett Johansson and her new film coming out with Wayfarer Studios. And then he said, Blake Lively, she didn't really get that memo, but it was not insulting. He didn't say anything terrible about her. And this situation that I'm sure is incredibly draining. My takeaway from that was he sounds like a very calm way to handle this on a private call with someone that you know well when you're probably frustrated. When I listened to the whole call, I was sort of like, I wonder if Claire AU woman recording is just nervous. And that's why she's talking a lot and not really letting him get a word in edgewise. And maybe she actually does feel like he's going to pressure her, and that's her way of dancing around the situation. I was back and forth. I mean, it was hard to get a good read on either of them and determine their motivations and what's the truth. What about you?
Well,
What about you guys?
so there was a motion filed by Lively's team where within that motion, they made reference to Mr. Sarowitz allegedly making comments that he would spend, and for some reason I've seen a couple different ways. He would spend a lot of money to protect the studio. It sounded
Mhm.
very ominous. And then in another clip, which I'm not sure that person was accurate, they said that Sarowitz said, I would spend $100 million to protect the studio.
Wow.
So that's why this conversation even came about, because that team made these allegations that Sorowitz said something and that they had a recording. When you file the motion, you have to file the exhibits. Once the exhibits are there, unless there's a seal, they become public record. Initially, my understanding was this was sealed and the judge wouldn't allow the public to have that. There's also been some talk about the clerks didn't get a hard copy. Well, that's not what would have happened, especially if something's under seal. You would send one for an in-camera review, which just means in the chambers by the judge. And so that could just be jump drive. It could be anything. They don't have to have a physical copy, but the judge could review it himself. When it's an exhibit, it's my understanding that obviously Baldoni's team said, well, that's taken out of context. There's a bunch of nice things that are also said in there by the recorder. I can't think of her name again.
Claire AU.
Claire.
Yeah.
And she
And
did.
so-
That was surprising too.
So in that regard, I could totally see why Sarowitz and the Baldoni team wanted the whole thing out. It's my understanding that they were the ones that requested the removal of the seal so that it could be made onto the public docket. Hence, you could go get a copy of it at the courthouse. That part makes sense, because if you just read the snippets, you're like, oh my God, this thing's under seal. This sounds so terrible. And look at these statements that were made. Blah, blah, blah. But when you hear it all together and he makes what, I don't know, handful of statements, most of it has nothing to do with the case, the conversation. And there are a handful of statements, that are caught in there. And there, when you hear him, it's not an ominous tone. He's not threatening. Now he makes comments that 2 people will be dead, which I thought initially was interesting. And then he clarifies, though,
He said, not literally.
dead to me.
Figure of speech.
So it's like, I mean, that sounded bad for a minute. And if you'd have read that, if they'd have put that quote in there, oh my God, there'll be 2 people dead. And you only read that emotion? Oh, it's smoking gun. So it's very interesting. But
well, one more thing about Claire, just to add another layer of context, her response, the way she complimented Justin Baldoni and joined in with steroids for a second, there is a possibility that could be the fawn response. The reason I think it could be the fawn response of her just trying to make things better and move through it is because in September of 2025, she made a declaration. She said she'd endured repeated negative interactions and verbal abuse from Baldoni when they worked on Empire Waste. And that's why she reported the call. So if she had really been through a lot, maybe she was feeling very uncomfortable, very threatened, and was trying to just appease and get through the situation.
I know I was going to ask you,
Not uncommon for people to do.
Leora, if when you picked up the discovery, did it have a date for the phone call? Because that's another thing that's interesting.
The date of the phone call is in the file name. I also made a transcript on my site, so it's all there. I believe that was August 29th of 2024.
Right. So that's what I thought.
Mhm.
'Cause in the conversation, there's reference to August. He says it multiple times.
It's summer, the slow month.
Interesting that there is a September 2025 declaration saying she endured these things before the conversation happened. She doesn't talk anything bad about Baldoni. If I'm on Baldoni's team, that's fertile ground to contradict her own statement with her own voice and recording.
Yeah.
And the
Could see-
recording that she made.
Yeah, I could see that. But also to your point, Britt, I could also see that as somebody who, if her issue was with Baldoni herself and wanting to keep things calm and make sure whatever her objective was, just to keep things cool, maybe not necessarily address anything directly. If you listen and read the conversation, she is talking quite a lot. I'm not sure if it is based on nervousness or maybe she just is long-winded, but yeah, I could see
Right.
that as a reaction, I
Yeah.
could see that sort of fawn response as well. So that's another great point. I mean,
There was definitely
many
something.
different
There was
many
something
different
going
ways to
on.
look at it.
Right.
That's one of the really important things as a litigator, to the difference between a transcript and actually getting to see, like in a video deposition, or in this case, you don't get to see it, but you get to hear it because the inflections in her voice, the pattern in her speech, the way she speaks, they're not just the words you would read on a paper. When you hear her,
Right.
to me, she sounded extremely nervous, which could be because she was worried that she was going to be pressured. She was recording it and she felt funny about it because she hasn't told him. There's a lot of twists and turns in there. What's cool for me as a litigator is that you guys are getting to see some of what I have to deal with all the time and how it can be very tedious and it's very detailed. And these things that this could be nothing, a big nothing burger, or it could be very big. And it's all how the case comes about. So for me, it's kind of fun. It's fun to be here with you guys and talk about it, hear your perspectives, because this is my world.
It's very stressful too because it's definitely fun for us on the outside looking in to hear the conversations and try to put the pieces together. It's like a puzzle, but when you really get into it and you look at the list of who filed this, then this was filed, it's such high stake and there's so much going on. I do not envy the judge who is in charge of trying to pick through this and make the best possible judgment because there's a lot going on from both sides. It's a lot of information and a lot of accusations.
It's fun for you guys to get to see it, experience the same stuff I was doing today in my federal case.
Leora, what was your reaction when you first listened to it? And has it changed at all? How do you interpret this?
Listened to it several times now, and I think initially I was confused. I was like, "What am I listening to, and why am I listening to this? What does this have to do with anything?" But I think we've been discussing the relevance of it and how it's connected to the case, why it's relevant, how it could impact each side. I think listening to it, I try to understand where people are coming from, looking at the timeline, even though it feels like it's been going on. To Michael's point, this is fast moving and there is a March 9th trial date. If they don't have this wrapped up before it goes to trial and there's jury selection, a media circus gets attached to that as well. We've seen that, especially here in New York, for these high profile cases, how intensely they're covered. So it really becomes its own vortex from a legal standpoint to everything that Michael was saying before. But then, Brit, all of the things that you brought up too, from the pop culture perspective and also just kind of understanding, the thought process behind statements or decisions that are made. So it's very interesting. So I was trying to listen from a little bit more of a strategic and legal perspective and, kind of understand who this is going to help. But at the same time, I was just really fascinated by listening to Claire, who is a director, producer, creator, and just kind of talk to somebody about working together on future projects and marketing and, talking to an executive that may or may not be interested in anything other than the bottom line at the end of the day. So I thought that was sort of an eye-opening conversation from a business perspective. But
Agreed.
in terms of shifting my perspective or giving me clarity on anything, not really.
No. There weren't a
Agreed. Like,
no idea what's going on here.
I mean, we know what's going on.
Justin versus Blake.
I think you guys are dead on it with the pop culture part. I don't think it's good for any of them. I think all of them are going to, at the end, when this is all over, because if they actually go to trial and one of them loses, they're going to appeal it. It's going to go on for a long time anyway. But whoever comes up winning is still going to lose. I think, like, who's going to want to work with these people?
It's done irreparable damage to
both.
regardless of what the truth is. We don't know what exactly happened and what the motivations were for any of this, but definitely it's created a lot of negative buzz around both of them. Some people say, oh, all press is good press. I don't know about this case.
So you're revealing who the true people are on the inside. And it is not, it doesn't appear to be very pretty.
To your point, Laura, we have gotten to see some inside baseball information. I remember when some of those emails came out about the way Justin Baldoni and his PR team were talking about Lively. It came across very harsh, very cutthroat. It was ugly. It was like, oh, wow, that's how, because you kind of think and people say, oh, Hollywood's so cutthroat and this and that. But then when you see it, you see an email, you read that and you're like, this is really just kind of nasty. They're really trying to go after somebody and they're talking about it openly. And so even seeing that gives you kind of a negative perception as a member of the public, someone consuming these movies and things. It just takes the shiny veneer off of everybody.
Well, I'm a cinephile. Like, I love movies.
He loves movies.
Love movies.
So, Laura, I feel like you watch a lot of movies and TV shows when the Oscars come around. Like, you always know what's what. You guys are the same now.
My perspective, just as a person, I'm not in a legal sense. I don't want to support any of these. I don't want to go to those people's movies.
Really?
I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like,
Well,
the image.
yeah, well, then I have to ask. So this It Ends With Us was based on Colleen Hoover's book, and she has a new movie coming out too. The movie that she has coming out is called Reminders of Him, and that's based on one of her books as well. And actually, she is pulled out of promotional events for this film, even though Blake Lively is not involved and, it's completely separate. But she has unavoidable surgeries. I hope she does well. It's one of those things where the tail end of this is going to continue to go on for quite a bit.
Even seeing those emails, and now blind items are really popular as well. And I talk about those a lot when I pull the tarot cards and we have fun, the entertainment stuff. When you were just talking about Colleen Hoover and her surgery, my first thought would be, oh my gosh, I hope she's okay. But I really feel like because of the way that our culture is shifting and the way that we're starting to see more behind the scenes and the negative dark side of things and the blind items, my first reaction was actually, oh, I think that's a lie. I don't believe that. Well, I'm just saying it's really changing. Like culturally, there's this shift where we're just starting to get more cynical about what's really going on here. And I think that this It Ends With Us case was it really contributed to that a lot. I'm telling you, I used to think that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, cutest, most adorable couple. I was like, oh, they're both so attractive and they just seem like they love each other so much. And they have these cute jokes they're always doing. And then seeing this and the way that it's like, oh my gosh, it was kind of shocking.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show, don't judge a book by its cover. There's just people at the end of the day as well,
that's
right?
exactly what I was going to say.
People are people.
It just shows that they're people.
Exactly.
I mean, we're all flawed. We're all flawed. That's just that.
Sorry,
I'm
what did
leaving
you
it
say?
there. We all are.
Even Hollywood people are flawed too. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Any other thoughts, Laura, or anything that you wanted to discuss?
I encourage everybody to listen. It's public record. Listen for yourself. Listen to the whole thing. Read through the transcript. I have it on my website. You can play it and read along at the same time.
Thank you so much, Laura. This was fun. I'm glad we all got to share our thoughts and kind of look at it together. I guess we'll just keep watching this case and see
Yeah.
what happens as we get closer to
Well,
March 9th.
We've only got 5 months till the trial.
It's only 5 months.
That's pretty quick.
Plenty more speculation. More time to speculate.
And who knows? It might get thrown out. It would not surprise me if this thing gets thrown out. And it really would surprise me if Lively actually wins money. Because I think even if they were to find that she wins, I have a feeling that a jury would say like a $1 deal or something like that. But who knows? Long way to go. It'll be fun to
Long way
talk
to go.
Long way to
Yeah.
go.
Thank you so much for tuning into this special episode and exploring the behind the scenes layers of the Lively Wayfarer Studios case with us. A huge thanks again to Brit and also Michael for sharing their insights and collaborating on this deep dive. If you want more, you can more on Brit's channel. I'm going to include that in the show notes. If you want to dig even deeper, head over to my website to listen to the full audio recording and check out my transcript direct from the courthouse to you. We'd love to hear your thoughts too, so please share those in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, and subscribe on your favorite platform. For more episodes on culture, beauty, and everything in between, stay tuned. Until next time, stay glowing.